Welcome back to Shit Talk Fridays. I'm Gina.
And I'm Evo.
We are looking tan as fuck, Evo.
Hell yeah, we've been going out. I don't want to say going out, but we've made the most of our summer with sunny days, like beach days and pool days.
Well, my mosquito bites can fucking speak to that right now because a bitch is itching.
Yeah, we went camping. We went to the pool a few times. Went to the beach a few times. Your brothers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Just some real behind the scenes talk. Evo and I are filming this the second time because we don't know what the fuck happened the first time.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. Y'all just finding out about it, so.
I figured I'd just share that. Let some of our stress out.
Pull the curtain back a little bit.
Yeah.
Show them what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. So we're drinking tequila. I'm gonna cheers to Friday, everybody.
Yes.
Hope everybody's gonna have a great weekend.
Cheers to another Friday.
Cheers. We're actually going bowling this weekend. Kind of excited about that. I haven't bowled since before the pandemic. I don't know, because bowling just seemed like one of those things that, was indoors. You're obviously putting on borrowed shoes, rental shoes,
sharing balls, touching stuff. Sharing balls and touching stuff. That shit goes down in the bowling alley.
Yeah.
I used to go bowling a lot, and so, with, like you were saying, with everything that happened, all that shit got cut off.
Yeah, I actually used to love to go bowling with the kids during the summer.
Yeah.
It was like one of those places that I took them when it was like too hot outside, but they still wanted to do something. I was like, yo, let's just go bowling. So I'm actually looking forward to going bowling this weekend. Anyway, let's get into today's topic. So we're asking each other some relationship questions.
Yes.
Questions that we think that if you were to maybe be considering to stepping into a relationship with someone, or maybe you're still kind of like in the dating aspect, maybe some questions that you may want to consider asking them to better get to know he or her,
definitely some really good questions you want to keep in your pocket and make sure you toss them out there throughout the middle of the night.
Yeah. So Evo and I kind of threw some ideas back and forth of what we thought would be good based on kind of like how him and I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because I feel like your questions are definitely more like family orientated. Mine's are like kind of weird. I mean, mine's are not weird, but they're definitely different than yours.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
they don't even have like the same kind of vibe, I feel like.
Well, I mean, we boiled it down to like a small group of questions. I feel like there's so much more to like that you would want to ask on a date, but we're trying to keep this like, whatever, just like a 3 must questions you must ask.
Well, actually, in total, these are 6 questions that you can ask someone if you're looking to be in a relationship.
Right.
So let's get into 6.
Yeah, let's go.
So let's get into the first question that Evo thinks that is important for you to ask the person that you're interested in being in a relationship is, what does his or her circle of friends look like? Why do you feel like that's important, Evo?
I think so. Learning about who their circle of friends are kind of gives you an insight of who they are, like as far as like in social circles, how do they like to have fun, what type of people they like to have around them, the energies that complement them, and it's also important to meet them so that they get to know who you are at some point. You know what I mean? I think it's good to know that if these are the type of people that you would gel with, and so.
You think it's important that the person that you're looking to be in a relationship with, that their friends gel with you?
Yes, it's not a must.
Okay.
But it is important because obviously if you get along with their friends, then you just kind of blend in to that whole social circle.
Okay.
So you may have situations where someone dates someone and they never meet their friends because they just don't vibe with them. They really like that person, but don't really like their friends. And then you have situations where someone is dating someone and really likes their friends and ends up like becoming part of their like kind of like how we've done, with the people that we've met and your friends, and how I've gotten to know all of them and become friends with them, and
Okay, so I'm a little intrigued by this. Are you maybe, and tell me if I'm wrong, are you making somewhat of like an assessment or judgment on the person that you're looking to be in a relationship with based on their friends?
No, not an assessment or judgment or anything. I just think that there's so much information to be told.
Okay.
About that person. You know, it's like, it's almost like that saying, like, you know, you want me to tell you your future, show me your friends.
Okay.
So I think that learning about who a person's friends are says a lot about that person in particular, not even necessarily their future, but just who they are as a person without them even having to tell you.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I if I had to think about it, if I thought about like your group of friends, and if I would have kind of show me your friends, show me your future, I think I would have been way off.
You probably may have. So it's got, you know, that's what it is for me. You know what I mean? Like when I take that approach, it's because I'm looking for certain things.
Yeah.
You know, it's really about the perspective that one takes and what the answers that actually one is looking for, the questions that someone has. Like you can look at a group of friends, and if you're questioning certain things and seeking answers that are really not, and they're not suited for you to like potentially be a part of that environment, you know, and seeing how you fit in all of that, and you know, and how you could complement that environment, then yeah, you may be way off. So I think that just for me, that's important. You know, I mean, you knowing me and you knowing how I am when I've met people that you've introduced me to, eventually, like, I end up being friendly with everybody else at some point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of important to me.
You're just Evil's just a fucking likable guy. Kind of makes me sick sometimes.
I don't know. I just like to. I mean, I can't tell you what it is. I just like to get along and have like a just a harmonious environment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I can say that speaks very
Yeah.
true to you. What I will say is, and then we're going to move on to your question for me, is when I think about that, I dated a guy once. We went out on one date, and it was a group date. He actually lived in kind of like the same building that I did. He was like, 2 of my friends are going to come meet us, and we're going to go watch a movie and then, you know, grab something to eat afterwards. I was like, okay, great. We got in the car when his 2 friends came, and he was white, and his other 2 friends were white. It was a guy and a girl, and the 3 of them started having this conversation, and they were dropping like racist jokes left and right. But I think they thought because I was Latina that I wasn't going to be offended, because a lot of the racial jokes were directed towards people that were black. I consider myself Afro-Latina. Even back then, I didn't have like that identifier per se, but when you look at me and how I see myself, my dad always told me like the world was black and white, and I
Right.
always saw myself as a, you know, as a black woman to an extent. I don't deny like my Latin culture, but anyway, I remember sitting in that car and my blood was I got so angry that I got a stiff neck. And when we got to the movie theater, he was like, "Is everything okay?" And I turned to him and I was like, "You know, actually everything is not okay. I actually think that you need to take me home." And that was the last time I ever saw him. And I let him know. I was like, "You and your friend," I was like, "You know, you seem like a very nice guy, but the way that you and your friends were carrying about, and the little fucking jokes that you were making were definitely not appreciated." He was super apologetic, but that just let me know what type of culture was brewing within that friendship circle, and I wanted nothing to do with that.
So you see how important that was?
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say though, when in regards to you, I feel like you and your friends, if I would have assessed you a little based on your friends, I think I potentially wouldn't have dated you.
Well, it doesn't sound like you assessed this person, and it sounded like that, you know, you just happened to hang out with his friends and learned about another side of him, and it wasn't even intentional. Like that wasn't your intention to go, you know, you weren't seeking that information. And thankfully, you know, you were able to see that. But I would definitely, that would be one though. I would want to see if that's, you know, if there's also the other side of that relationship, you know.
Well, I'm glad that I found that shit out right out the gate, because that was hang on a second. It's your turn to ask me a question, because I feel like every time you're about to Evo, I swear to God, when it's his turn,
I gotta wet the palate. What you want me to do?
Yeah, but you're then also eating up our time doing that.
Oh, I'm eating up our time.
Yes.
I mean, it seems to me we're 9 minutes past 7 minutes. So.
Well, you know, we also have an intro, sir.
Yeah. Well.
Thanks.
Yeah. We're like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave that alone right there. So, by what I have here, so some of the things that you find that are very important to ask in a relationship is, what is your ideal date night? What is your ideal date night? date night day? Like you
What is your ideal date night / day? Like,
oh
like if you go out, not everybody goes out on a date at night. Some people make dates.
Yeah, you slightly threw me off with the slash there. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. So what is your ideal date night or day?
Yeah, I think
like?
that's really important to ask somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what if you like to fucking rock climb, and what if I like to have a picnic, and we're gonna be way off?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. You want to be able to have like interest. I'm sorry, I got my eyes itching me. Yeah, I could see how that's important.
I think it's important to ask that because if, let's say for example, and I'm looking back almost 10 years. If you were to have asked me 10 years ago what was my ideal date night, I would have told you I want to go to a club, I want to have a couple drinks, I want to dress up, I want to go to a diner afterwards. That probably would have been my ideal date night. You ask me that now, that is not my ideal date night. I'm like, let's go to the movies, maybe get something to eat, but I want to be in the house by 10 o'clock.
I can see why that's important.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, because you want somebody to be on the same level as you.
Yeah. And
or you be on the same level as them.
And if you're not on the same level now, it's not even so much about you always being on the same level. It's also letting the other person know what if some of your interest. What are some of the things that you like to do to have fun? And I feel like telling them what your ideal date is, you're kind of giving them a little bit of an inside scoop of what it is you like to do to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a common question though.
You think so?
I mean, yes, I think at some
Evo.
point in dating somebody, when you're getting to know them, you kind of want to know what it is that they what's their impression of a good time, like what do they like to do for fun. I feel like that's a...
Yeah, but what do you like to do for fun and what do you like to do for a date are two different things. Because what I like to do for fun and what I like to do as a date may be very different. Because on a date, you're with another person. There are things I like to do for fun by myself. So when I like to go thrifting or go to the bookstore, I like to do that by myself.
Right.
I don't want to do that with you, and I don't want to do that on a date. So if you ask me what my ideal is of having fun, it may be vastly different. So that's why I said I think it's important to ask this person what is their ideal date. And honestly speaking, it's more than likely it's going to be the man asking the woman this, because even though we live in a world where women can make dates, men can make dates, not to like put anybody in like a gender box, but I think there are still a lot of men out there that kind of want to be give a little bit more of chivalry and a little bit more romantic and still kind of like set up a date.
Right.
So I think if the lady is giving them a little bit of insight as to what something ideal would look like for them and they could set that up, I think that would be, in my personal opinion, I think that would be great. You don't have to tell them every fucking intricate detail. But if you say, maybe going to the beach would be really nice. How you set up that date at the beach, I think would be part of the surprise almost.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, finding out what someone's likes are.
And then
important.
And like how, not their likes, what is their ideal date night?
Okay, yeah, but that's technically what they like to do on a date night.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that that's what they just
like.
I feel like
it's one of their likes. It is.
Yeah.
It's one of their likes. I was just kind of like putting it all in a box.
In a box?
In a box, yes.
Yeah, because like, for example, if I was to say I love going to the beach, but then what kind of beach? Like depending on how you want to set that date up, I think could be part of like the whole experience. It's just not taking me to a beach. It's like, do you pack a lunch? Do you bring me to a drive-on beach? Do we go surfing? What does the experience consist of?
Yeah, now we're packing lunch and we're driving on.
Yeah,
there's no question. We're not going to talk about it.
But that's us now.
That actually might be a question I might avoid. I mean, like, listen, we're going to go to the beach. Forget about it. I'm not going to ask you where you like to go, what do you like to do. We're doing it my way, and we're going to my beach.
But that's what I'm saying. If I tell you that I would love to go to the beach on a date, how you then choose to set up that experience, I'm kind of leaving that in your court. That's why I'm saying I don't think that women should just go ahead and or men tell them exactly what, ideally, I would love if you picked me up at 8 o'clock and then we went to go get coffee, but the coffee needs to be from Starbucks and I want a matcha latte. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, not like that.
Yeah, for our viewers and listeners, I don't know we've said this many times before, but there's a beach that we go to that we drive on. And so Ever since we started doing that,
Thus the tan.
yeah, we never walked on ever again.
Yeah, there was no looking
There
back.
was no walking on ever.
All right, so then let me go ahead and ask you the next question that
Yes.
you think is important to ask someone if they are looking to be in a relationship or some serious type of dating. What does the relationship with their parents look like?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that's important to ask someone?
I personally think it's important for me to have a good relationship with the parents.
You,
Me,
the datee.
the date E, yes. I find value in that.
Okay.
I find value speaking to the person's parent that I'm dating, to learning about them, learning about their life and their family and their culture and how they grew up, getting to know them personally, you know, kind of like getting like a nostalgic part of life that you'll never ever learn, ever come across. And the only reason that you're getting this information is because you're dating the one of the most prized possession of those two people. You know, getting to know them on a deep level, and them liking you and accepting you as family. There's a relationship that comes out of that it's unexplainable. Like, you really don't get it every day. You know, you're almost like being taken in under the wing, like as a son. You know, and when that
daughter.
or daughter, yes, but I'm speaking for myself here.
Correct.
And so when that happens, it's just a beautiful moment. It really is, and it doesn't happen often. You know, like a lot of parents, you know, don't accept the person that their child is dating. You know, there's also that side of it. So I feel like it's important to find out what the relationship that person has with their parents, to know, for me at least, if there's the potential of that happening. And if it isn't, then it isn't. You know what I mean? Like, I've dated people where they don't get along with their parents, and we've dated and we've been just fine. But I just like to know.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
Yeah, you are. And so and you're the one that I ended up being married to, and where, you know, I spent, you know, almost 20 years with. So it just goes to show you, like, it's not super important to me, but it is something that I feel is important.
Yeah, and I would think almost probably the complete opposite.
Yes, and I understand why.
Yeah.
And that's totally respectable.
Just to give people a little bit of understanding, if you've never heard this before, I don't have a relationship with my mother. I do have a relationship with my father. But even when I first got together, I did have a relationship with my mother. But this is like over 10 years now. So I don't know how important it is in my eyes what their relationship is with their parent, only because sometimes parents are the reason why there is no relationship.
Yeah.
And it really has nothing to do with the actual child or person that you're looking to date, why there is not an existing, you know, communication happening. So I wouldn't really that wouldn't really be something that I would necessarily be questioning or potentially care about. I think the one way that I would care about it, I would like to see how they treat their parents.
Yeah,
like,
well,
if we're in the same environment, you know, we're in the same space, it would be important to me to see how they like interact, how they communicate, because to me that gives some indication of like how that man or woman actually functions with people that they care a lot about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of still falls within the box of your relationship with your parents. You know, that's also part of it. You know, like, how do you feel about your parents? Do you respect them? Do you love your parents? You know, which one, you know, is more dear to you? You know, and what was your childhood like? You know, and all that stuff. Like, you know, it's all in that wheelhouse.
Okay. So what do you got for me?
Okay, so
I mean, I kind of know, but.
So one of the questions that you thought would be important to ask on a date is, what are your sexual desires / kinks?
Yeah, I think that's important to ask.
Really? So like on a first date? Or is it just generally like at some point? Because yes, I would agree with you on that. But like, how soon do you spring that question?
You know, Evo, I think it really depends, because some dates can go really well.
Yeah. Is it a vibe?
Yeah, I think it's definitely based on a vibe.
Yeah,
you know, sometimes the conversation leads to the conversation of sex.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
it must be like a strong attraction for like that to come out on the first date.
Yeah. I don't think that you have to, on the first date, to do a fucking deep dive into it. You know, I don't think you have to talk about every desire, every sexual kink.
I think if they're really feeling each other, it's going to come out on the first date.
It can. Now, to say that it's always going to happen like that, no. But do I think it's an important question to ask? Because again, you two can be on totally two different planes when it comes to maybe the guy that you're seeing or the girl that you're seeing, their vision of sex is very vanilla, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe their most kinky thing is doing it doggy style.
Oof.
But
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just about to say there's nothing wrong with that. No. But if they then tell you that and you're like, you mean you don't like to get choked the fuck out?
Yeah.
You know, you may at that point need to have a conversation about where you like to go in the bedroom. And then the two of you can have a conversation if you're looking to step into the relationship, if you're willing to maybe go that place. Because I know that's something that you and I talked about.
Yeah.
There were things that I was like, yeah, I kind of like this. What do you think about this? And there were times that you were like, I don't really know how I feel about that. But guess what? I think we can work towards that. Give me some time. And vice versa. You know what I mean? So that's why I think it's important to know, because if something is established in that person's sexual desires in the beginning, you can decide whether or not you want to take that journey with them.
Yeah. Listening to you say this, it makes me think about all the people that date, end up being in a relationship, and really never even have this conversation.
Yeah, and then one day they're like, how come you don't like me to stick my finger in your butt?
I think it's just more so the fact that, like, each other's sexual desires are never really met.
Yeah.
And it's because they just never really spoke about them or made attempts to meet those desires, and end up sexually frustrated throughout, like, the long term of a relationship. And then, there's a whole statistic of cliches that happen within that wheelhouse.
You know what's really, as you say that, the thought that immediately comes to mind, how many times I've heard about people engaging in sex but then are not comfortable talking about sex. To me, that sounds like a oxymoron. Yeah. Like the two don't. Definitely. What does that even mean?
Yeah, definitely an important one for any of you guys that are out there seeking, like, this, longevity in a relationship. I mean, knowing how to touch your partner's buttons is key.
You were gonna say how to touch your partner's butt.
Yeah, well, that too. I mean, certain people like to be grabbed a certain way, and I mean, I think all that is important.
Correct. So there are so many people that will literally, there will be a sexual tension between them, right? And then they'll just jump in bed with each other because they want to satisfy that sexual tension, that that lust feeling that they have. And then maybe you get a little over that, and now you're like, okay, we've satisfied that curiosity. I'm still very sexually attracted to you, but then they're not willing to talk about, like, the more part of it. Do you have any desires? Are there ways that you like to be touched? For whatever the reason, sometimes people find these conversations very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, if you are willing to open your legs or put your penis in a vagina, then I think that kind of comfortable thing should kind of take a back seat.
Yeah.
You should be willing to have these conversations. And if you're not, figure out a way to get comfortable. When I first started to learn how to drive stick shift, no pun intended, I was very nervous about driving a car that wasn't automatic, and I had to figure out a way to get comfortable, and I figured it out. I just took a shot of vodka and I just jumped behind the wheel of the car. Not that I recommend that, but it doesn't really do anything to you. It literally just took away the jitters. It helped me just to be unnervous and put literally my best foot forward, because I had to figure out how to shift and all this stuff. So that's like a metaphor of how you figure out what makes you come to talk about these things, because I know that they may feel uncomfortable, but fuck it, do it, because you don't want to find out somewhere down the road that homegirl, homeboy likes BDSM, and the roughest thing you've ever done is a little slap on the butt. Like, there's no longevity in that.
Agreed.
So totally. Another question that Evo thinks is important to ask is, you think it's important for someone to ask about their culture? Tell me why.
Yes. So this is super important to me because I came to learn that being culturally connected with someone really creates a bond on another level, one that I didn't even know existed. That's something that actually wasn't important to me until, like, later on in my life. I was doing in my younger years, in my at the beginning of when I started dating, I was kind of just, I had no preference. I was just dating and, with whatever felt right, and I had no preference on culture or race or anything like that. I mean, I was always yeah, that, like, it was just never anything that I had a crazy preference on.
I know you said that like 3 times.
Yeah, because I was going to say something else, but I was like, you know what, that's not really, it's irrelevant. So I just went back and reiterated what I said. So later on, I found out through many failed relationships that the ones that I was culturally connected with, there was a little bit of extra oomph in those relationships. And so at one point, I knew that I added that to my must of things that needed to be part of my relationship.
Okay.
I figured I think that when people date, they kind of like go through a relationship, figure out what they don't like about that relationship and what they do, and then take the best to the next one and leave all the bad stuff behind. So those relationships that I had where there was a cultural connection, that was something that I always carried forward with me. And then it wasn't until one point in my life where I just realized that, you know what, from this point on, I really want that to be part of my relationship, along with many other things.
So, but that sounds a little bit different of asking someone to tell you about their culture. It
Right.
seems like it seems like what you're saying to me is having a cultural connection was important. That's great. But what happens if you come across someone that their culture is very different from yours? Tell me why it's important to ask about their culture.
So it doesn't, they can be different.
Yeah.
There can still be a cultural connection, even though they're not the same cultures.
Okay. So give me an example.
So, for example, there are many, you have many races that have migrated all over the world. And so I feel like cultures are semi-mixed to an extent.
Okay.
So if there may be a culture that is very similar to yours as far as music and food and hospitality and things of that nature, that, for me, though, they're dear to me. They're almost like that, the Ratatouille moment, where he takes the bite of the food and he goes all the way back to his childhood. Those type of moments are, for me, they're important in a relationship. Things that make you feel, relationships with people that make you feel something like, like you haven't felt in a very long time.
I think the best connection I can make, or the best like how I can relate to that, is growing up I had a lot of friends that were Caribbean, from the West Indies, or Jamaica, whatever it was. And I always felt, even though I wasn't West Indian, I always felt culturally connected to them. I felt like when I was around them and their families, the way that they danced to that type of music, whether it was soca, whether it was calypso, whether it was reggae music, the way that they communed with food, the way that they celebrated holidays, it felt very similar to the way that I did things in my family culturally. And I felt like even though some of the food dishes were different, they were the same. They were eating rice and peas, I was eating rice and beans. They had some sort of like meat turnover. We had empanadas. It was like the same but different.
Yeah, so this is
so
what I'm
I
talking
still
about.
felt culturally connected to them,
yeah.
and still to this day I have many friends that are from those cultural backgrounds, and I love being around them. I love being around that culture. It also has a lot to do with the fact that we are people of color in that avenue. So like there's this sense of like camaraderie between us that I enjoy so much. That's how I feel like I can relate to that question. So I feel like when you ask that, maybe someone is looking to hear a way that there is like a sense of similarity. So like the other day when we were at my brother's house and I met one of their friends for the first time, I was doing something in the kitchen and I made a joke about like how the men in our family are, and she turned to me and she immediately was like, wow, you guys sound so much like my family. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like it's that people want to feel that sense of almost kind of belonging. So when they describe their culture to you, you're kind of like, oh,
yes,
my dad does that. My mom does that.
And it's just the ability to experience or have moments in the relationship with that person, with them and their family, that remind you of, things that are dear to you from as an adult and as a child.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how much that little moment in that movie means to me.
Oh no, I know you've actually referenced that particular scene a lot,
because there's a lot of experiences that I've had in my life that I've that moment captures what it is
Yeah.
that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
When I eat, there's many times when I'm eating with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I don't know if people do this, but sometimes I'll close my eyes and I'll eat, and I'll let the food kind of just give me mental images of what it is that I'm tasting and I'm eating. Like, I don't know, just like, and so like and I'm a foodie, you know that. So to know that the person that I'm going to potentially be dating, or if I'm interested in that, not only is there an attraction together, but we have a likeness in the food that we like to eat, really creates a extra level of joy
Yeah.
in a relationship.
Yeah, I do think nowadays you'll probably find people's cultures, depending on who you're dating, they have like an American aspect to
Yeah.
it that we all can relate to. We all kind of do something like a little
Yeah.
American-ish,
Mhm.
Like there are dishes in some Hispanic cultures that they maybe have originated in our country, but we've kind of put like an American twist to it. So when you meet someone, they're like, oh yeah, I've had that before. I know what that is, or something like that,
Yeah.
because it's this like the American version.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay,
So tell me, what was the other one that I
So
had?
the other one that you had here is, what are your hobbies and how much time do you like to dedicate to it?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
You know why that's important? I was just having a conversation with someone just the other day about their significant other and how that they were dedicating a lot of time to that hobby, and it was kind of causing issues in their relationship. And going into the relationship, they knew that this person had that hobby, but just didn't know how much time they were looking to put into that hobby.
So you think it's important to ask that question in regards of, does this person dedicate too much time into something where it would take away from
Yeah.
our time together?
Correct. I think it's important for someone to have a hobby. I think so for me, actually, it's like almost the exact opposite. If someone tells me that they have no hobbies, that's a red flag. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? You don't like to do anything outside of like wake up and go to work? That to me is a problem, because I think people should find other ways to have fun by themselves, or maybe with other groups of people, separate from potentially a relationship. So when someone tells me nothing, but if they tell me, I like to surf 7 days a week, 3 hours out of the day, so I'm like probably doing the math in my head where I'm thinking, okay, so if they're doing that 3 hours a day and then they're going to work and then, eating dinner or whatever it is, that's a large portion of the day. Like, kind of, where do I fit into that puzzle?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to know. Or it's even possible that you may have like a hobby.
Yeah, I can see why that would be important in that sense. I'm sitting here listening to you say this, and I mean, I would have a different approach on that.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
I would there would be a large portion of me curious to know on if this hobby is like an excessive hobby. Could I potentially fit around it?
Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, could I potentially be the type of person that could be with this person and not take away from their hobby? How could I complement their lifestyle where I'm not disruptive to what it is that they're passionate about, more supportive? And how would they take that? How would that be an asset to their life, and try to be an asset in that type of way?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would try to see how, if I could. I'm not saying that I could, or like it would be the immediate like, oh yeah, no problem. I mean, because obviously I'm gonna want my time with the person, but I would seriously be trying to figure out. This would probably be a problem for a lot of people. So how can I make this not a problem? How could I do the opposite? How can I make, because like the rule would be like, okay, you too much time, like you're doing way too much, like that's a problem for me. I
do think it still should be a conversation. So like,
yeah,
if you come to the realization that their hobby is actually, there's a lot of time dedicated to it, and you are in your head saying to yourself, okay, then where do I fit in? I think you should still have a conversation with the person that you're looking to be in a relationship with. Like, hey, I was thinking, you told me this is what you like to do for a hobby. You also have a full-time job, or maybe you're a full-time student. I see this as not a lot of time for a relationship. Because relationship takes a lot of
They
work.
do, especially at the beginning.
And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to get to know each other.
So then, how the fuck are you doing all of this?
No, by all means necessary. Like, don't, like, I would definitely still have my my line drawn in the sand at some point, you know, like, but you know, I feel like that question is different for everybody.
Of course.
You know, there may be some people that they don't even want the idea that you have a hobby, you know, like, or some people, you know what I mean? Like,
see, like I said, I think that's a red flag. I think it's unhealthy to not have anything that you do outside of like potentially a relationship or work, because I look at life in the aspect now. I didn't always look at life like this, because I didn't even have the time to process how I wanted to live my life. I was just fucking surviving.
right.
But I want to live my life to live and to do and to have experiences, you know, because kind of really what else is there? I just don't want to exist. I just don't want to go to work. I want to experience new things. I want to look at new landscapes. So these are like hobbies, the way I go about finding new experiences, you know, pushing myself to do new things. So if someone says to me, I don't do any of that, to me, that's a red flag.
It's important to be on, like, to have common interests for sure, you know. I was just thinking about what you said, and it just sounded like that your initial concern would be, does this person have enough time for our relationship, or what it is that we're trying to do, right? And then all I'm saying is that my initial approach would be different, still with the same concern, because I am going to be concerned, like, is there enough time for us? But
I find that to be problematic, but that's your personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, again, you knowing me, does that seem like something that would be uncommon? I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it does, for sure. But like I said too, on the upside of that question, you could then find out that person and you have a hobby in common.
Yeah.
For example, I love comic movies. If I was dating somebody and they're like, I love comic movies, holy fuck, the rabbit hole that we would go into talking about comic movies and how we could now have experiences together in entertaining that world would be fucking amazing.
Right.
So I think that there's an upside to it. It's not just always about, oh no, this person has a hobby that may take too much of our fucking time in our relationship and I just better exit stage left now to avoid this problem. That's not what I'm saying.
So, but what if the person's hobbies is car shows?
What if it is car shows?
Which is something that you're totally not into right now. So, like, how would you manage? Like,
well, I just said to you, I would really ask them, how much time are they looking to dedicate to these car shows? How much time are you looking? So what
would be too much?
So the way,
typically, like, let's say during the summer, like during the season, there's car shows every weekend.
Okay. Yeah, that would be too much.
That would be too much.
Because then to me, if you're also working a full-time job, which means that a full-time job is 40 hours, a minimum of 30 to 40 hours a week, which means that you're working 5 days a week. So then every weekend, if you're at a car show, then where do I fit in? And at night on the weekdays?
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, every week is definitely a lot to have some type of extracurricular activity in a relationship. Especially a serious relationship, but I just kind of wanted to get a gauge of, like, you know, what you thought would be. You know,
Evo, you love to say this in a relationship. The key word is relating. How are you relating to me if you're not spending time with me?
Agreed. I just wanted to again just know what is too much. So like where would you draw the line? With like once a month, like twice a month?
I don't think it's about. I'm not trying to tell you how many times, but there should also be the amount of time that is dedicated to a car show. You should also be dedicating, if not almost equal to very close amount of time to spend with me.
So, but would you call fitness a hobby? Even though it's health, right? It's something that you're doing.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
And you're doing it daily, at least 6 times a week.
Yeah.
So it's okay for someone to dedicate that much time to themselves. For health reasons, but if somebody has a hobby, that maybe it gives them a sort of mental health. Eva,
that's why the key part of that question was how much time do you dedicate to it? So if you're working out 30 minutes a day
to an hour a day,
that's not taking up a lot of your time. But if you're going to a car show that is 5 hours long every weekend,
but once a week, that's actually equates to an hour a day.
Okay.
Actually, less.
My point to you is, Evo, and I said you also have a full-time job.
Yeah. No, I
Okay?
just
You could also get up at 5 o'clock in the morning while I'm still sleeping and work out, and I wouldn't even know. But a car show doesn't start at 5 o'clock in the morning. If that's the example that you want to use, you know that a car
Yeah.
show is an all-day fucking event. Why are we even going back and forth
it can
with
be.
this?
I'm wondering. My question was just how much is too much. I was just
I think it really depends on the situation.
how much time? Like how much time is too much?
Eva,
Like,
I think, again, it really depends on the situation.
all right, I'm not really getting.
And I also said to you that if the amount of time that you're looking to devote to that, you should also be finding almost, if not equivalent, the same amount of time to spend with me. So how you figure that out, that's going to determine what's too much.
Okay, so if as long as they're spending an equal amount of time with you,
Yeah.
then it's okay.
I think that that's fair.
Okay.
Because then that's still giving them the time and freedom to do a hobby that they enjoy.
Great. That's and that's kind of where that's what I was trying to get to. Like I just wanted to put like a number on it. I don't know what, we were people listening and they're you're saying, okay, well, if the hobby is too much, then maybe that might be a red flag, right? So giving them a gauge on like what you feel like would be too much would be more time that they're spending with you.
And I think in the same regard, you could invite your partner, the person that you're dating, to be part of those hobbies.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're always going to want to do that.
Yeah,
You could
probably
find or vice versa. You can go with them and enjoy hobbies with them. That's not something that is always going to play it like that. Evo used the car show example because Evo used to like to go to car shows. I used to go with him sometimes. Sometimes I didn't. I didn't always want to do that. But then you still found ways to spend equal time with me. Did you not?
Yeah, of course.
So then that's why I'm like even wondering why you saying what's too much. You know what's too much.
Honestly, I didn't. The car show thing, I was just random. Like I was.
But people that dedicate too much time to things.
But that may not be too much time for the relationship.
But it is.
It may be,
that it
maybe
is.
not. I just wanted to know what your opinion was. That's all.
But you know that it is.
I just wanted to know what you thought. Your thoughts on it.
All right, so we're actually ending this episode earlier than we usually do. Because that's actually what we have for you. We want to share 6 questions
questions.
6 questions that we thought that maybe you could ask someone that you were looking to date or be in a relationship with, just to kind of get to know this person better. And like I always tell you, Evo, I love talking to you.
It's always a pleasure.
It really is. I almost kind of feel like sometimes when we sit down and we have these conversations that I approach it like a whole new you and me.
I mean, I think
Like
that puts
I try to
fresh spin on it.
Yeah, like I try to kind of like really hear you out, because as soon as we get off these mics, I don't give a fuck what. It's like I don't care. Save that shit for the show. No, I'm just joking. But so if you enjoy listening to us or watching us, we are here almost every Friday. Like sometimes
98.88%
yeah,
of the time.
for real. Because like every now and then, motherfuckers gotta take a break. Yeah, motherfuckers gotta take a break.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we are here every Friday. So if you want to continue to listen to us, to watch us, please like, subscribe, share, do all those things that can help us to continue to grow so that we continue to be here for you. So until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.
Peace out.